So let's call the meeting to order at 9:04. We do have a quorum, 4 of us here in person, and Tammy and Russ on the phone. The first item to consider is approval of the February 26th regular meeting minutes. Is there a motion to approve them?
So moved.
Carolyn, is there a second?
Am I seated as a...
Yes.
I'll second that.
Yeah, is that right? Because Deb's not here.
They're on the phone. I don't.
Is it Ed's or Tammy's turn?
Actually, it's Tammy's turn.
Okay, Tammy needs to be seated. And so we need a second from someone other than Carolyn.
So
I'll second. Yeah.
Okay. And any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. And communications, Martha.
We got an email from Bill Ross of Sullivan Landscaping, who wants to attend the public forum to talk about some landscaping ideas, and also Alicia Millardo, who will speak about a storybook concept for the Roger Tory Peterson Estuary Center. And they are both going to participate in the public open forum.
Okay. And that's it for communications? Okay. Well, let's turn to the public forum. Bill, I heard your name mentioned first, so you're up.
My name is Bill Ross. I'm with Sullivan Lawn Services in technically Centerbrook, but Essex. I'm working with Murgy here at 22 Line Street. And I've been tasked with improving a space on the shady, it's actually the south side, but it's in between a very tall hedge right on the property line and the home, the house. And I've brought with me some plans, and please consider this conceptual, so disregard any witness lines or dimensions on it, but it's just to communicate the intent. This is the feedback I gave to the client based on their direction to me. And there's an existing fence, I guess if I can point, this is the property line here, and there's an existing fence that runs to about here, wood fence, and the idea would be if we want to do a sort of a stone wall and a wall fountain in this area to create this little space here.
Is this in back of the house?
It's on the side. So as you're facing it from the road, it would be the left side, inside.
So this is where's the Line Street?
The Lime Street is there.
Oh, here.
Yeah.
So if we're looking at Murgy's house right here.
Left side.
Here.
Correct.
And then it's a pretty narrow.
That's correct. So there's a very tall, I'll call it a double arborvitae hedge that has overgrown both sides.
Yeah.
So it's actually encroaching on the drive. I had consequently visited with the neighbor earlier in the summer about kind of reclaim. Oh, that's you. I met with you. Okay.
Happens to be me.
Yeah, okay.
Just by coincidence.
Did we meet over the summer about that?
We probably did.
Okay.
I mean, we talked about the arborvitae, but I actually kind of like the sort of the overgrown look. This overgrown look because it protects the people from having to look at the cars that are parked there.
Yeah, understood. So in this case, there's sort of a double row there.
Yeah.
And the idea was that we were going to reclaim, the space that we could sort of over this area. So right now, I think we're kind of like out here at the edge of the vegetation.
So who owns the vegetation?
Well, so I think both.
Yeah.
It's just sort of a double.
Hedge.
It's a double row.
So this thing right here is just because there's a little back door or a little side door there.
Yeah, this is the I guess we'll call it a 3-season room for lack of a better description.
Oh, the glass room.
Correct.
Yes.
Yeah, and then there's a stairway out here, and there's existing AC units here which we had proposed to move around the corner to group them with the rest of them.
That would be to the back of the house.
Correct, where you won't see them be further from the street.
So this would be up against the arborvitae hedge?
This would be facing that way, right? So you're seated here. The other way around. So this is the basin. So this would be facing this way.
And this is the hedge here?
That's the property line. So it's an existing fence that runs like to here. And the idea would be, we would run that fence interrupted by this, this would be veneer stone. This is not, these pictures are just to represent the concept, not the color or anything.
I'm sorry, where is the arborvitae hedge? All along this
Here.
line? Or just outside?
I think we think of this as my driveway, kind of, right?
Correct.
Okay.
Right, okay.
But it's actually, there's arborvitaes that are here,
All the way along.
and then same thing, like here,
Yep.
right, all along the edge there. So the idea would be, I have some dimensions here, but actually what we would propose to do here, I think the discussion went when I met with Lee, was that that this would all be the height of the fence. So whatever that is, 6 feet, I think, was the existing fence, and then so the top of this would be, we would conform to that height. So basically, you'd have a fence that's interrupted by essentially would look like a stone wall from the back. And then would be fence again from here to some point.
I'm still confused, Phil, about where the fence is in relation to the double hedge.
Okay, so let's look at this. This is Lime Street.
Yeah.
We're looking this way.
Yeah.
There's a little fence gate. I didn't draw in here, but you walk through this gate through a little path. And so there's a row of arborvitae that are here on this side of the property line, on the Murgy side.
Yep.
There's another row here, and then this is a driveway.
And so the stone wall would go in the middle of the arborvitae hedge?
So you'd have fence, and then this would begin the veneer wall here. You'd be looking at stone wall this way, and then the fence would either continue or reduce down here.
How much noise is associated with the waterfall?
Not much at all. It's just falling in this little basin here. I don't know how to quantify
Is
that.
this a fireplace, or is that the
No.
that's the fountain?
That's the
Consideration,
basin.
I think, yes.
Okay.
Is
So it's
it
just
24/7?
No, not necessarily. No, and you're probably going to be shielded from the solid wall. This would be solid here behind.
I don't think you're going to see it much from Lime Street,
I think we need to do a
but we do need
Yeah.
to do a site visit. I think so,
I
too.
think that's the first step.
Again, there's nothing pending
Yeah.
here, and this is just
Right.
a concept.
And
So
this would be new
this,
flooring,
this would be proposed.
stone.
So there's an existing patio there. I think the main change that we would make is that there's existing AC units, and so we've tasked somebody with figuring out how to group that over here.
That would be nice.
We're working on it.
We would have probably, I can't
Like
speak
that
for the
part.
commission, but
As you know, it's not an
Rather
ordinary
have a stone
residence.
patio than
So-
HVAC.
But that's the idea. And so really the intent today was just to sort of present this concept and take the temperature to see kind of if we're on the right track, or if this has basically to see how, get some feedback from the mission.
I sort of assumed that they would want it screened, the Murgys would want it screened from Lime Street just for their own privacy. I mean, if you're sitting there, you probably
So you're
like to.
Yeah, you're inside, and there's actually quite a bit of vegetation here that would remain.
Right.
There's a large styrax right here on the corner that's
Right.
very full actually when it's
It
in
is.
leaf. And I think this would not get any use in the winter. So
but
it's seasonal.
if this is, you said when it's in leaf, it's deciduous,
It is,
so
but
you could see it from Lime Street, sort of.
but there's also some the arborvitae is
It's
still there.
very
It's quite you'd have to really.
We should go and we should
Yeah.
do
Yeah.
the site walk.
I mean, we're asking about visibility because that's
Mhm.
obviously what we care about, stuff that's visible from a public street.
Sure. Well, so I don't think the visibility of this would be minimal.
Right.
And the idea that this would have a little wing wall that drops down, I don't know if it's really, I should have sort of tried to show that. again, this is a little different. I would propose to bring this down, but this would step down and then return, and so there'd be, there currently is a gate here, and that gate would remain in some form.
So this wing wall would be visible from Lime Street?
It would be, but it would be fieldstone veneer on both sides, so you're not looking at a concrete structure or a segmental block or something like that. It would be, this kind of natural stone.
Right.
And what do you see now from Line Street?
The gate. Mm-hmm. It's very, again, you really have to look because it's the very tall hedge. So as you're coming down the walkway, you'd see it for just a second as you're walking past, and then you don't see it.
You really, if you're walking, I know you walk there all the time. Obviously, I do too.
I don't know which is the property. Is that
It's the church, the converted church.
the Catholic church?
It's the old Catholic church.
Yeah, okay.
On Lime Street.
Yeah, okay.
Between Homeward and Deanie's house.
Okay.
If you're walking along the sidewalk, what you really see is the glass room, the glassed-in room that was added on.
I think
what draws your eye.
The next step, Bill, and our typical practice for projects of any significance is to do a site visit, so we can get the picture in mind and have a sense of how much. I mean, I'm getting answer very little is visible, but get our sense of how much is visible.
Sure.
I wonder if it would be possible for us to keep one copy of these.
You can keep them both. They're for you.
Okay, great.
And Bill, will the I'm looking here. Will the arborvitae be higher than the height of this stone wall?
So we don't have permission from the owner to touch anything on that side. So the answer is yes. There's no intention of disturbing any of that.
But the intention is for the wall to be lower than the height of the arborvitae.
Arborvitaes are very, very, very tall.
So taller than 6 feet, yeah.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, and what we think is going to happen is, because it's a double row, when you take these out, it will be, you'll not have much vegetation or green on the Murgy side because they've grown together. So that's why we would make this a little taller.
Is the stone wall going proposed stone wall going right on the property line?
So the answer is yes, and so in this case, I'm viewing it as sort of a stone fence, if you will, right? So if I'm assuming that the zoning and all that is going to conform to, as long as we're 6 feet or whatever the height spec is on that it just basically the top of that would remain consistent.
Yeah, I don't know what the zone. I mean, I don't know.
Yeah, I haven't gotten there yet.
Right. Yeah.
So, I figured, the first step is I wanted to come here and say, you guys are crazy, don't do this, whatever. So if we're not there, then we'll continue the discussion and site visit and all that. So.
Are there setbacks on Lime Street?
You mean on the property
From the
line?
property line?
There probably are. I mean, this is, because it's a very narrow, as it is, that's why we have all these arborvitaes, both of us, because we really do have, are very
but that may
protected.
relate to structures rather than...
Well, I know where I am, you can't have anything more than 200 square feet within 10 feet of the property line or something like that.
So that would be a shed or something like that.
Have you checked with zoning about?
No, but in this case, I'm going to couch this as really kind of an extension or sort of a differentiation of the fence. My guess, knowing what I know about zoning, is it's non-conforming, so the side setbacks probably don't conform to the normal, that would be typical of an older part of town, so. But.
Meaning non-conforming in terms of.
Probably the existing structure is closer than the side setback would be for a parcel that square foot area.
If it was new construction.
It would be different, right.
Like if you were going to build this from scratch, you wouldn't be able to do it.
But it would be, I think you just made the point. I mean, it would be interesting to know what is permissible per zoning
Yeah.
before, wouldn't it? I mean,
Well, you should know. I mean, you don't want to go through this if you're going to
Right.
run into
So
a hassle.
I
with
can
zoning.
pursue that on a parallel path in sort of an
Yeah.
informal way as we're doing here.
Yes.
But I had sort of made an assumption based on the conversation I had with the owner, and there's an existing fence at 6 foot right on the line. So in this case, I would try to make an argument or a case that basically it's a fence, the
Right.
stone fence.
Right.
And really the only thing visible from this will appear as a stone wall.
So Deanie, would the noise factor be something you would want to consider?
Well, this is, I mean, it is me that's the neighbor. So I don't, in theory, the Murgys have done a good job on everything they've done, and so I'd be more inclined to try and think this is fine than, not think it's fine. But I would like to understand exactly what it is.
Because they could still have this lovely enclosure, patio, move the AC and so on without the fountain. It just can keep the existing fence and arborvitae with some, lower planting and pots around it or whatever. I mean,
It just would be
this
nice to
wouldn't be
try and
crucial to
visualize it.
their-
I think the site walk is
crucial to
very
their plan.
very key. Is
Yeah.
trying to see because in my mind's eye, and this indicates how good our screening has been. That seems like a tiny space to me.
It is, and so that's partly why we're trying
And
to...
this looks like a much larger.
No?
No?
Well...
What is
what
that
are the
measurement?
dimensions here? Approximate.
It's 1 to 4.
This is 9
No.
feet.
No, so that...
Oh, I'm sorry, that's the...
So I would tell you that's probably 12. There are certain dimensions that
Should we
when I
write
design
that
patios
down?
and like,
Or
so
do you
anything
see that?
smaller
Oh,
than
we see
12
that
by
here.
is
Okay.
starting to get a little small for the
27,
furniture.
28. It's about...
It's 1 inch to 4 feet. It's on the...
It's about 28 feet from there to there. No, a little longer than that.
With a ruler or a tape?
Yeah.
It's all scale.
We'll figure it out.
Yeah, I measured it. So it's accurate.
Tammy, did you start to say something? Tammy?
Yeah, I think I need to do a site walk to understand it since I'm calling in remotely, but
Yeah.
I just really kind of want to understand the view of it from Lime Street is my big thing.
Yep.
It's minimal, but I wonder if...
But I agree with Deanie that, I'm going in with the idea that it'll be fine because I, know Michelle and Lee, but I just want to understand it, how it looks from the street view.
So what I was going to offer to do is, if there's a site walk scheduled, I would like to participate just so I can help explain it a little better. And so I guess I'll wait to hear. I'll be flexible about whenever that is. I'll make myself available.
Okay.
To do the walk.
Hey, John. This is Russ. I was wondering if the materials being shared today can be sent electronically.
Yes.
Thank you.
That would be
Do you
great.
want to send them to Martha?
Well, yeah.
Yeah,
To Martha.
we've been corresponding with Martha. So.
Yeah, I'll send it. What's that email?
Yep, it's Martha.Hanson,
Do you want to be the keeper of these, or do we need more than one?
Then we can keep
You can take one extra, write it on your...
So it'll be in a PDF format. Does that work for everybody?
Sure.
Yeah. Well, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. And RTPC has some
Exciting stuff. Good
exciting
morning.
proposals. Hi, Alicia.
Or should I just keep going?
rubber
It's just a,
Just wait a sec.
you got it.
That's okay, no problem. I have your rubber.
Yes. I was just saying I had two clients on the commission and I didn't recognize either one of them.
All right, so good morning. The Old Line Library came to us a little while ago, but before we get moving on a partnership with them, I wanted to talk with you about what they're asking. They want to do a storyboard walk on the RTPC property, which I sent them to Martha, but I will send everything to you ahead of time. They're post with signs.
I do have a few.
She circulated.
Yeah, we
Perfect. So they want to put those on the property. Now, the way it would be to lay out would be on the property line of the Flow Grizz and the RTPC, so it's kind of hidden, if you will. Right now, the thought is that some of them will fall into the 300-foot, so we would need the approval from you to go forward with these. And they're nice, and I love the idea of them. Let's be clear, they're not the most decorative that anybody would want, but they get to get changed out every season with different stories for people to come and enjoy and read as they go through. So it would run literally just along the property line there in the hedgerow.
How many of them are there?
It's a max of 16, and we're hoping that the company will condense it down so you can read more than 2 pages on a board, but they haven't done that before because we want them to be able to walk a really long distance.
So 16 of these along the property line with the Flow Grizz.
Yep. So they're right now we're planning them out every 5 feet. And they go from where the Sunken Garden is all the way down to obviously before the river.
What kind of story do they tell?
So we get to pick them out, and it would be anything from children's books, usually children's books, and to engage children in the reading as they're walking and enjoying outside.
For example?
For example, Stella Luna would be one, because there's only a small amount that you can choose from because there's only 16 boards available. So you have to be able to condense it onto that space.
So it would be one book that would continue over 16 boards.
Oh, I see. So that's the idea.
It's a storyboard walk. Literally, yes, you read a book as you walk down. So it's really neat.
It couldn't be reduced to fewer than 16.
As of now, they're saying no because of the way they have to print it and the copyright laws and everything. So that's what the company's saying now, but we're hoping that we'll be able to edit it and put them in.
And where do you imagine placing the first one as it relates to Lime Street?
So you know where the Sunken Garden is?
Yes.
I would say the middle of the Sunken Garden, right on the property line. So right on that hedgerow there. So what we want to do is we want to dig a hole, put a bucket in, fill the bucket with cement, put the post in there, put the storyboard on there. So if we need to pull them out, we can pull them out. Do you see what I'm saying? So rather than making it a permanent,
towards the river.
and then they will run
16 going down.
And what are the dimensions of the signs? You probably have that.
It's a 2 by 3. 2 foot by 3. So it's 3 feet by 2 feet.
3 feet is big.
Pretty good size, yeah.
I mean, compared to
That sounds pretty large to me. I mean, that's changing the character of that hedgerow into a series of signs. It sounds like at that size.
Yeah, I can. Well, what I'll do is because I'll come next month for a formal presentation, and then we'll put it on so you can see it on an aerial view of the property, so you can see it. But I just wanted to talk with you about it and show you what it is that we're looking at.
You said, as I recall, looking at these, which were sent in color, you've got a couple different possible posts.
So that's the thing. We have 2 options of stands. One is wood and one is metal. We'd prefer one. We think the metal falls into the hedgerow a lot better, and we think it'll be more sustainable in the long run.
how tall are they?
That I don't know.
I think we need more.
Yeah, absolutely. I just wanted to kind of give the information now because I'll come back and I'll bring the library with me next month, but I just wanted to show you them ahead of time.
I think the concept is nice in terms of the property and bringing people there to, enjoy a story.
And it was at the
Also, they go and walk on the artist's walk, and I mean, it's sort of creating. It just seems like a lot of them.
Which is why our first thought was, can we reduce them
Yeah.
to smaller, and we're waiting to hear back from the company.
I think fewer and smaller.
Yeah, I don't know if they'll
Right,
be able to do
right.
that because they're set for that. And then the other thing is if we can put them in other spots on the property, I just thought it would be neat for children to be able to just run and read.
Sure.
You know, it's like that's the fun part of that.
What is the size of the witness stone
I forget, but
sign
it's not more than this, it's not more than 2.
at the library now?
Yeah,
Right.
it just seems, at the library.
And the height would be child's reading height?
I don't know the exact dimensions. I can pull that for you though, no problem.
And it would be possible to find perhaps another company if this one can't meet what it is that you really want the signs to do on your property.
That would be up to the library. This was a bequest to the library.
But
And
they're probably
they
not
needed a
limited
property.
to one company, yeah. We could talk with Katie about that.
I'm gonna, absolutely, but I just wanted to touch base with you guys first before we went anywhere.
Good book,
we-
by the way.
We appreciate your touching base.
Absolutely. Thank you for your time.
It's a neat idea, but
It's a great idea.
you've heard some of the questions.
Absolutely, and that's good. That's helpful for me. Good. All right, thanks, you guys. Have a good day.
Bye, Lisa. Thank you.
And then we are on next,
Coming back next time, is that what we left?
Yes.
Yeah, they're coming up with a formal presentation, okay.
we turn to the secretary's report. So Martha?
Yes. So I went through the webpage in detail, and I sent a whole packet of updates to the web page administrators, so that everything that's on there will be updated. There was a lot of incorrect information. I mean, if you drill down in there, at one point it said that we met at the line patch, which was what we did during construction. And so there was just a lot of updates. So I did that.
Great.
Right.
And
Thank you, Martha.
they will also post the newest C of A form. They had one up there that was from last summer, was one of our revisions, but it wasn't the final version.
Okay.
So that will all be fixed. And there are 13 issues in the projects and issues in the historic district that we are monitoring so far. Some, I'm not sure when the Ferry Road sidewalk project is going to get going. It's supposed to have been gone out to bid, but I don't think it has actually. So that's going to be ongoing for quite a long time, I think.
Do we get to review it again? I mean, we've sort of conceptually said okay for the portion in the historic district, but do we get to look at it before the town signs off on it?
Not that I know of. They haven't really changed anything.
If they haven't changed anything, I don't care. If they have changed from what we had discussed.
They haven't changed anything. The big issue was with the trees.
Yes.
Because they're going to have to remove a lot of the trees. The way that they have to put the sidewalk in, they have to dig down at least 18 inches to 2 feet and put in a base, and that really disrupts the roots, the tree roots. I also prepare minutes for the tree commission, so this has been a very intense discussion with the tree commission because they're all town trees, and they're going to be removing.
People like trees. So.
People like the trees, and a lot of those trees are planted in between the sidewalk and the road, and there's just a very small strip of land, and it's not conducive to the kind of street trees that people like. They like big shade trees. But some of the trees will be replanted, and they're working on plans for that.
It's hard to visualize it when you come off of 156 and you're coming in on Ferry Road, if you just try and take away all the trees, it really changes the way it looks.
Yeah.
It really does, you know.
And, you know, they looked...
It's a loss.
They looked into moving it on the other side of the road.
Yeah.
But there was a safety issue with people having to cross Ferry Road to go across and then go back. So they decided not to do that, just to keep it where it is and do the best they can with the trees.
Yeah.
So.
Martha, I can't remember, is it bluestone or is it concrete, the sidewalk itself?
Concrete.
It'll be concrete.
The new sidewalk, yeah.
Yes. Yeah, they looked into all kinds of different materials because of the trees.
Yeah.
You know, but ultimately they decided that they would just do the project and then
plant
whatever can be planted there.
Yeah.
Yeah, and there was a
whole
separate budget for planting and everything. So.
What part of Ferry Road do you have?
And
is it the whole thing? I think
the historic plaque
down to Lieutenant River.
from Lime Street to Lieutenant River, yeah.
I'm saying, we were just asking how far the sidewalk goes to Lieutenant River Lane,
It goes all the way to 150.
or all the way to 156.
The existing sidewalk goes all the way, I think, to Robin Sedgwick's house.
Yeah.
That's
Right
at the
there,
river.
because there's like an access landing kind of thing to the river.
Yeah.
There. So it's the entire sidewalk.
But how much of that is historic district?
300 feet from Lime Street.
300 feet.
So we don't really have.
Yeah, so we only have jurisdiction over that first portion.
But they've included us, which is thoughtful, you know, in the process.
Okay.
Can I add one thing to the Secretary's report?
Sure. Go ahead.
I just feel like it might be the best place for it. I was up in land use the other day, and they were asking where are all of the originals of our COFA applications. The ones I have, which I've been collecting since I took this position, are in a plastic bin. And I'm sure you have years of them too. What they suggested, even though they upload them all, but that we put them in those file cabinets up there that have a folder for every property.
Oh, good. Okay.
So that they could have a ready file of everything to do per property.
Okay.
So I've been filing all of these by meeting. Every meeting I have clipped together and, so I can easily, but not by property. But I mean, I could go and pull them as could you some. However, I mean, you have years of them, so that's a bigger job.
Sorted by property.
They're sorted.
Happy to up there.
Yeah, right. So I thought that would be great for everybody. Because even though it's online, just being able to look at the history, everything's not online.
It would be terrific. One thing we should have is going back even before Martha's time, ideally. And if there were ever a town budget for interns, students, it's something a high school student even could do to go back through the minutes and at least pull out, if we can't find the original form, pull out
the approvals.
Say about the approvals.
Be great, John.
Be a great summer job for an intern, for a student.
Keep that in mind.
So.
Yeah, see, when we originally, we had a tiny little office in the basement, and there was a file cabinet that had all of the whole history of the historic district in it. And then when they did the renovation, they scanned all of those old files. So they were scanned into the town hall system somewhere.
Well, No, he has them. I mean, they have them.
Probably do have
Yeah.
copies of everything that was in that file cabinet. And then they got rid of all the hard copies.
And then we keep providing them with more after every meeting. We take the
I mean,
But I have all the hard copies since they did that.
yeah. So they seem to think it would be a good idea to have the hard copies up there.
well, but for the older ones, maybe it would suffice to have a sheet that just a notice in the hard file saying, go to such and such a place
Here, 19,
online. to find it.
73, yeah.
Yeah.
So we can,
I'd be very, very happy to. Out of it.
Yeah.
Oh.
Okay.
Yes, that would be great.
All right, co-chair's report. Deanie, do you want to say a few words about 2 Lime Street?
Yeah, just that you might have noticed in the zoning minutes, we sent you copies of them under the
Enforcement.
I have a copy here, if you'd like to see them.
Does anyone need a hard copy of the zoning minutes? They were referred to in Martha's cover note.
If you just want to see what I'm going to mention, it's under
There's a reference. Do you want a full copy? Here, it's
No,
got-
I mean, I won't keep it ultimately. I'll just look at it for today.
yeah, I'm keeping
So I'll
it.
take one
Yeah.
copy just for the meeting, then I'll
Yeah.
give it back to you.
Well, no, I don't need it back. So, but it's got materials about the overlay zone that you may
Oh, okay.
might want to refer to in the future.
Okay, fine.
So just very briefly, under 2 Lime Street, the minutes referenced the HDC, so I thought it would be important to just mention why. So 2 Lime Street has, which is the Leadington House next to the church, just to the left of the Congregational Church, and they have prior approval to let 4 bedrooms. They've had it for many, many years. So now it's they have permission. As a result, that permission carries down. So they have permission now to Airbnb it because, it's 2026. Oh. So some other neighbors in the Historic District noticed that they have also begun advertising the property as a wedding venue. And they've set up an LLC, and they have it on various wedding websites, and they have weddings booked for the summer, etc. This is a zoning matter, but it is because it's in the historic district, and because it involves parking and all kinds of things that sort of are within our jurisdiction. I just thought it was important to bring you up to date on that.
And where is zoning now? Tell us what is the most recent development?
This is it, as far as we know, isn't it? What's in the minutes?
I think since those minutes, I really don't want to speak for zoning, just because I might get it wrong, but I think they've petitioned or are asking to have 2 more rentable rooms, so 6. On their website, they're renting the whole house, though, for weddings, but as just a matter of a Airbnb, they're petitioning to change it from 4 to 6 bedrooms. And, I just think the CEO has been in conversations with the owners about this commercial use.
Sorry.
So
Hey,
can they-
Deanie,
Yeah.
do you have the website that they're I mean, I know, how are they advertising the weddings? Is that on Airbnb as well?
It's on Wedding Wire. One of the places is Wedding Wire. And then somebody else on Lime Street sent me a link to another thing called LuddingtonHouseCT.com.
Okay.
I think it's on a number of different wedding websites under venues. Venues, Connecticut,
And there's also a brochure.
And there's also
A color brochure trifold.
which I don't have a copy of, but.
Okay.
Russ,
Thank you.
are you there?
Yeah, yes, John.
Could you confirm, I meant to email you before the meeting, that 2 Lime Street is in fact within the historic district? It's
Yeah, let me
obviously
do
got
that
a
right
Lime
now.
Street address, but it is, am I correct, south of the church? So it's off what our description calls the foot of Lime Street.
So the green is not part of the historic district?
Part of it is,
Part of it is a part of it.
but I don't know how
Yeah,
far.
let me look here. The is historic. 1 minute.
Just while we're waiting for Russ, where we put the Lafayette sign, is that the historic district?
Yes.
So how far does the historic district continue on McCurdy Road beyond the Lafayette sign, let's just say?
Well, it's awkward because our legal jurisdiction depended on the configuration of McCurdy Road, Lime Street before it was changed. So I can't answer.
John, it appears that 2 Lime Street is in the historic district.
Is in. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Great.
It
is an issue if we want to follow at zoning. I think we pretty clearly have authority to participate. This is the same statute that gave us the authority to offer proposals with respect to the overlay district, but there's a specific reference to variance requests, and we can make comments if there is a variance request that would affect the historic district. So that's
But I think that's all we can really,
to be considered in the future, possibly.
if it turns up on a zoning
Exactly.
agenda.
Right.
Because at the moment, we do.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I'm looking at the website, and they're advertising it as accommodations for 20 people.
Yep.
Um,
And a wedding of up to 100.
Outside.
yeah.
Well, you rent the whole house and then you have it outside and there's a tent and.
Yeah.
And music.
I mean, that's a lot of parking.
And parking, yeah.
Well, picture.
It's a hotel room.
It says picture a summer Saturday with a wedding at the church and a wedding at this venue. Anyway, that's all for the
Zoning, it's
for zoning.
initially.
So,
Yeah.
I wanted. Is that all on that?
That's all I have, yeah.
And I wanted briefly to highlight the zoning minutes references to their vote denying the overlay petition. There is a reference here that going forward, zoning plans to initiate its own process involving, according to the chair, a suggestion, so that's just at the suggestion stage, that a subgroup be created with no more than 2 people from zoning and representatives from the groups affected, and that the group understand all the perspectives, including those of the Old Lyme Historic District Commission. So, I don't know whether we would actually be on that small group, but it sounds as though they are aware of the need to continue to cooperate with us as we seek a way forward.
That's the way the minutes sound to me too. I plan to attend the zoning hearing on March 13th, Monday, a week from today, because if it's on the agenda, so that we can hear the continued conversation about that. Yeah.
Okay. The next item on the agenda is the Connecticut River Gateway lighting policy. We just received something that I frankly just saw and haven't had time to digest. So
I can just give you a slight overview on that. So this came, Suzanne Thompson, who's the co-chair of the Gateway, got this final wording yesterday, late afternoon, which is why I sent it to you at the time I did. They are going to propose this language at the April zoning hearing to be included in the Old Lyme zoning regulations. And so it's interesting. What our role in this is really, as I see it, is to write a letter of support if we decide to do that. But we can make that decision. We can have that conversation in April because our meeting is before the zoning meeting, whether we want to write a letter in support of this.
Okay.
It also helps inform some of the discussions we've had previously about developing our own kind of lighting guidance. So I think this is some very useful information.
I can go into details if anyone wants, but again, I've looked at the statute and I think there are certain provisions that would give us authority to write a letter about this because it does affect the historic district.
Yep. So that's really, once we've all had a chance to digest it, we can discuss it, put it on the agenda for the next meeting. And then if we decide to write a letter in support, we'll do that and have it to zoning before their meeting on April 10th.
That sounds good.
Yeah.
Okay. And then finally, we come to the Old Lyme Children's Learning Center. We're about 15 minutes late. Usually we have these public forums and nobody shows up, but today we had 2 people show up. So anyway, come on up if you like. Here, we can pull this other chair around.
Okay, if we sit.
Sure.
Hi, Martha. So I'm Nina Peck. I'm the consulting architect for this brand new project. And this is Dana.
Hi, I run the Learning Center.
Hi.
Director?
Yes.
And I'm Marie Ryan. I'm on the board. So this just came up very recently, a couple months ago. The center was doing renovations with large trees and rock. And once they opened everything up, they realized it was a bit of a can of worms. And so we're really, although Dana and Marie have prepared a really nice background that I think you should all read, and they can encapsulate it for you, but the major reason we're here today is to listen to you all, hear your concerns. Obviously, we're working together. I was on the Historic District Commission 17 years. I love, this is the heart of our town. This is a very critical project, not just for the families. My kids went there, all 3 kids. So it's essential for the town. It's part of the fabric of our town in the historic district. So we all want to do things right. We don't want to rile anybody up. And I can assure you, as an architect who has great admiration for historic districts and projects, I will take very good care of the building. But that said, the building is not in good shape. And I know for the process of getting our certificate of appropriateness, it sounds like we want to get an engineer's report. Although I will say I've been in business, I've been an architect 40 years. I've dealt with many historic buildings. I walked into the project and I'm like, this is a teardown. I always say there's a difference between historic and dilapidated and decrepit. So anyway, that's as a licensed architect, take on it. We can have John Whalen go in and look. We can have, I would hire GNCB architects, engineers to write a letter, whatever it takes to help you get your arms around this. But I don't want to go on too long because, as I said, we are here to hear your concerns.
Okay.
So
before you go on, is it Nina?
Nina.
Yeah. I was moving a chair and I missed your names. I'm sorry.
All right, I'm Marie Ryan. I'm a board member.
Okay.
And I'm Dana Gatchick. I'm the director of the Learning Center.
Okay.
And do you want to handle your...
I did.
Oh, you did.
Okay,
great.
Gave them the narrative.
Right.
I have a question, but tell me if you're going to cover this anyway. But Nina, as an architect, if you could let us know what other, what alternatives you have considered. I know you think this is essentially a tear down, but what other, maybe that fits in later, but we'd be interested.
Okay. So one can renovate anything. We could renovate that.
Yeah.
We won't be saving a thing. We'll pretend we're renovating it, but at the end of the day, nothing will be of the original part.
Right, but the structure would be the same.
No, the structure is the part that's failing.
I mean, the structure would be replicated.
Yes.
Even though the materials would be different.
So if we were to build anew, it would be on the same footprint. We would do measured drawings of the existing building. We would make sure the scale was the same, the plate heights were the same, the roof pitch was the same. So it would look like if you drove by now and you drove by a year from now and saw it rebuilt, it will look better, but you wouldn't know it was new. That's always my goal when I work on a historic house or in a historic district, that it looks as if it's always been there. And I have projects, I did the Inn at Stonington, in the historic district. That was a brand new building across from Bunning Mellon. They loved the building. It looks like it's always been there. And I did the Hoxie House at the end of the bridge in Mystic, and nobody even knows it's a new building. I mean, it just, I take that as a compliment. I'm not trying to call attention to the architecture. I really want it to blend in with its surroundings. Does that answer your question?
It does, thank you.
What elements of the structure
are failing?
Yeah.
So if you look at you start with the understructure, it's typical in a house built that long ago that the granite foundation is failing, the pointing is gone, it's all dust and everything. But more importantly than that, because we can fix that, but the beams are rotted. They don't even, like they're columns that are not even supported, that are cut off in midair. There's one major carrying beam where they cut it in half and put the waste pipe through it, and I'm looking at it, it's like, this is just hanging there. It's not even posted down or anything. The exterior walls are less than 2x4, so it doesn't even come up to insulation code nowadays. We always build a 2x6 now, and we have insulation requirements that's gotten stiffer over the years, as you might imagine. This doesn't even qualify as so I have pictures, but my hope would be really that you would walk over there because when you see it. And then there are other things like mold and rot and raccoon dew in the attic, and God knows what that's breeding. The windows are not great windows. They're not double pane insulated glass. The roof is good. They did put a new roof on recently. Sadly, that doesn't help us much. You can see the sag in the major roof beam on the addition out the side of the gable part of mass of the thing. You can see it sagging. It's just, a lot of sag, a lot of rot, a lot of undersized things.
Just hasn't been maintained.
Well, part of it, and it's age. I mean...
Yeah, but old houses exist if they're maintained, but they're not maintained.
Yes.
Yeah.
But a lot of it is under...
How long has the children's center...
Wait, Tammy, just wait 1 second, Tammy. I'm sorry, go ahead, finish.
I think they tried to maintain it, like they put the new roof on, but a lot of the part that's dilapidated is what you can't see.
Or
couldn't see.
And it was originally thought to be water damage that you were trying to fix, is that right?
Yeah, so originally we had opened up a wall because we noticed that part of the sheetrock was not secured. So we took a little piece off, and the thing that was behind it was so the chimney in the rear, you can sort of see the smaller chimney, wasn't flashed when it was put in, so water, and there's a cricket that wasn't properly put on the roof, so the water just got in. And when we started to open up walls around it and flooring, the way the pitch of the house is, the water kind of continued to sit due to that one.
Oh, nothing's plumb. But it doesn't, you know, houses out of plumb, oh my gosh, we have that all the time, you know, in an old house, and we'll find ways to correct it. It's the underpinning of this that, to me, is the more critical part. And I did a house in Fenwick, it was architects actually, it was a very historic house, and we had to keep it. It was a $6 million job as a result, but everything had to be corrected. The structure was a mess, the foundation was a mess, I mean, everything was a mess. It was a significant historical house. I will say, this is a nice building.
Contributing, but not, yeah.
It's not the still house. It's a cute, and honestly, I don't know, if the original house, my guess would be it was only the original part with the gable, and everything else was an add-on.
The L looks like an add-on for sure, yeah.
Okay. I want to give Tammy a chance to...
Yes. Tammy.
Go ahead.
Oh, I was just asking how long the Children's Center had resided at that location.
They provided a little narrative here, 30 years.
So the concept was, it was a vision of two women about 40 years ago. We opened our doors in 1987. Does that answer your question?
1980.
Yeah, thank you.
Do we know how old the house is?
It was built in 1860.
The original part, which...
Right.
And again, I live in a house that says it was built in 1860. What that means is one very small portion of it was built in 1860.
Correct, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And we do know the original owner who built the house originally?
I do not know the original owner who built it.
So when you...
Martha probably knows.
When you build
I do have.
with 2x6 walls, where you have less than 2x4 walls now, are you going to lose interior space? Try to pick up?
No, we would build on the footprint. We will build, I can't emphasize enough, you will not know it's a new building, except that my sense in helping it to feel integrated in this community was I would use the model of the 2-over-2 windows that's next door to the garage.
Right.
Like the windows there are not historic.
No,
they're awful.
They're awful.
And the way the rakes are built out, they're awful. You know, there's a lot of detail. There is no detail. And what they did do, the bay window's awful.
Yeah.
The entries. So we would put back historic detail. I would take the cues from the garage. I would take it from Center School. One of the hopes, and this would be a bit of a change, would be to connect the toddler center with a new building. But when I looked at the way the toddler center sits and the new building sits and the toddler center has a shed roof, it lends itself beautifully to build a little connector where I would take the detail of the Center School columns and sort of repeat that there. So again, we have, we make it feel part of the community with the other historic elements that you see in its neighboring buildings.
So the original house is 1860, but the Center School is 1930. Mm-hmm. So there would be a historic discrepancy in those two styles, but you could probably...
Well, I mean, I say that loosely. I might not copy it exactly because again, looking at my house, the columns are just simple square, and it's just a base molding with a cove, and then it has sort of a little cap. They're not Tuscan columns or anything.
Sure. Yeah.
Russ, do you have questions or comments?
Yeah, I was curious as to, again, trying to understand the condition of the current structure. Is the failed structure throughout, or is it at discrete locations? I mean, a lot of what you described is very typical of a house of that period, and I think it's very important for due diligence that we understand, exactly what is the failure point that can't be rebuilt, and the extent of that. In other words, is it 20% that is failed because of a leak, or is it 80 to 100% of the foundation and substructure that has failed? I think we need some real concrete understanding of that. Yeah.
So let me address the word fail. This building will not fall down.
From the roof down?
We have the Lee House in Niantic that is still around, the oldest house in Connecticut, I think. So it will not fall down. But I don't want our town I don't think we should throw good money after bad. And we can put all sorts of Band-Aids on this, and I think it would be foolish. And I think we have to be practical, and we have to, if you walked in the building, I think that speaks volumes. I'm happy, as I said, to engage a licensed engineer in addition to give his views. But I will say, it's not that it's going to fall down. It's just that it's just, I have to be not emotional here, but it just makes so little sense. Are we going to take out every stud and replace the stud? Are we going to take out every beam, and we'll take out the windows, and we'll take out the floor, and we'll take out, they have no, there's no sheetrock. I mean, this strange boards over why? What purpose are we serving?
Have you had one of those, the CT Trust, those circuit riders that come and look at old buildings?
Preservation Trust, you mean?
No, I mean the Connecticut Trust.
So again, is this
yeah.
Huntington House or, Phil House or something? But the only original part of this is the little box that is the gable part.
Right.
So, what is it that you want to save in that? Do you want to save the
I don't know. It's just
do we want to
it's a
save the vinyl
process
siding?
that is
Do we want to save the vinyl?
often goes through.
I don't mean to be confrontational. This is a discussion, and
I think the pictures help, but I think a site visit would be very illuminating.
Yes.
I will note that I live at 110 Lime Street, and that was renovated in the first part. The front part is the same as it always was, with some internal fixes that you don't see. The back part is all new. I mean, it was they got in there and were planning to fix it up and said this board's rotted, and it was not as bad as this, but.
Well, what happens when you're building is you have every intention to save it. It's never a goal to tear something down. I mean, we don't go in with that goal. And then you start working on it, and at the end of the day, very little is left with what you started with. And if the facade of this had nice windows and clapboard siding, but it doesn't, it has vinyl siding, I would make the recommendation to go back to real clapboard siding so you can get the nice real trim, although we use PVC now. We don't actually use wood anymore because it's rock, but it looks like wood.
That's what I was going to ask you. What do you envision the new external cladding to be?
I would prefer
clapboard-like.
Clapboard, real clapboard. But things like corner boards, skirt boards, eaves, soffits, casing, we do with PVC as a generic term for polyvinyl chloride, which looks like wood, but it's not. And another cool thing we can do is use the PVC gutters that are integrated into the crown molding, which I did on my house. They're really cool. So you don't have to use aluminum gutters, and it looks like the historic. Well, I would, as we got further into the project, I would obviously show you pictures of how this is done.
Russ?
What I was going to say is that, if there, and I haven't, and I think a walkthrough would be very helpful. I 100% agree. And if there's nothing worth saving, then why do it? But I would say that in a house of this period, it's not just the exterior appearance, but sometimes the post and beam structure and things of that nature that are historically important. I mean, how was it built in 1860?
It's built it's got plates the studs and headers and joists, just like any other normal house, but they just I would say the probably
it was remodeled at some point then, you think?
Yes.
The balloon framing? Yeah, okay. So that's important,
framing.
right?
Balloon framing is when the studs run from the first floor all the way to the attic without a header at the second floor, which is why they catch on fire, which is why the fire is a big issue there.
Right. Right.
So no, this is, I would call it standard wood frame with some weird carrying beams in the very, very old part, which have been compromised by plumbing.
And it's been cut. I think you mentioned that. Yeah. So that's all. That's I think that's what, as the commission, in order for us to take to that next leap, that we're going to build a new house or a new building, and work with you on what that should be. It would be good just to have a clear understanding that of what was built originally is no longer there, is damaged, and I'm not saying we need a lengthy report, but something that just kind of documents that, and maybe you have something in front of the commission right now. I don't know. I'm not there, but I think that's important to understand. Yeah.
Yes, that would be our goal. We, as I said, this just came to my attention a little over a week ago, but I think we could ask our building inspector to go out, and I think we can have a licensed engineer look at it as well. And the other thing I don't think I've mentioned, we will do, even if we tear the building down, we will still do measured drawings of existing conditions so that we have, before we start our drawings, we have the model. So the scale, proportion, and all of that is right.
Well, at this point, I think the next steps are to schedule a site visit and to get this report or reports, I'm not sure which, that you're
Even from
talking
Wayland.
about.
Yeah, I think we can start with John? Wayland?
I think it's John. Mark?
Mark. It's Mark.
Yes.
Yeah.
You're John. Right.
Structural engineer?
He is our building inspector.
I met him. I did.
There's another unspoken issue here, which is money and time. These families have been displaced, and it's a hardship. I know, as a working mom, you lose your daycare. It's a real hardship. So we are trying to make this as smooth a transition as possible, do it in as timely a manner as possible, and for a reasonable amount of money, which also, I will say, building new always costs less than trying to tiptoe around something that you're undoing and redoing. That's not the entire reason, but it is a consideration.
And let me be clear, I'm not necessarily asking for a structural engineer's report. I just think that your report and kind of what you said today, along with images and the description of any item that might have been considered historic or of the 1860 period that has been damaged or it's no longer there, it can be, from my point of view, that's what would be needed. I don't know about the other commissioners and how they feel.
Yeah. I mean, professionally, and I can put this in writing, but in my view, the things that are historic is the foundation and the major beams in the house, which are the ones that are compromised. Yeah.
Right.
So, for me to be clear, site visit, building inspector report, your supplemental, or just so that we have in writing some of the factors you've been listing, do we then not need a structural engineer's report?
I'm happy to get it. I want this to
What do you
go
think?
smoothly in town and not have anybody question.
I mean, it's not just us, too.
That's what I'm saying, yeah. I mean, it's very visible, and I don't want anybody to say we haven't done our due diligence.
Yeah, there have been questions asked, even by other people on the commission, about that, about a structure of
And
an
so that you
engineer's
understand,
report.
you probably already do, Nina, but one of the things we have to consider is precedent. So if there's a tear down of a historic building on Lime Street, that sets a precedent, whereas if there was...
That's a good point.
Yeah.
And that's huge, and I appreciate that. I really do.
Very important consideration.
Yeah, so let's add that.
Okay.
So we're really
That's already
talking
on my
about three reports.
Yep.
Okay. And in terms of timing, Nina, I think we could probably schedule a site visit pretty soon. So, as you know, it's not just us. There's the building department that has to sign off and may have its own questions. When you are ready to proceed, this is very helpful. I mean, a project like this,
No, it's
extraordinarily helpful to come in before you say, here's what we want.
And we don't want to. We want everybody to be happy, which is hard, but they will be happy. I promise.
The precedent part is important,
Yeah.
because somebody else will
Precedent
come
part
and say,
Hey, well, they did
they
it.
tore down that building, so why can't we tear down ours? So
We have to have
that and prepare for that in advance. You can help
a
us.
lot of documentation on why you don't think
Everything we do
it's
has to
comparable.
be analytical and objective, so we take subjectivity out of it. Like, I don't like the look of that building. That doesn't count.
no.
I mean, everyone knows that restoring a building is very often more expensive than building it new. So that's not sort of,
We want to keep
A
that
good
out of
enough-
the argument. Yes.
but keep that out of the, I mean, that's not, there, I think we need much more detail on, yeah.
Anyway, for timing, we can schedule a site visit. When would you, I mean, assuming these other reports come in pretty quickly, when would you propose coming back to us with a formal proposal?
Well, do you want to wait for your site visit until we have the reports, or do you think you could?
You could do it beforehand.
I think we
I don't
could.
think they necessarily.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm always available.
Next week for me.
Next week, because Deanie isn't available this week. I don't think we should do it without Deanie.
No. Okay.
We can do it at the beginning of next week. It's fine. I mean, what about you, Russ? Will you be around, or Tammy early next week?
Unfortunately, I will not.
This should be fine for me.
Russ, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I will not, John. But I think if the commissioners could do the site visit and take some photos of anything that appears to be historic or that identifies the condition, that would satisfy my need. I don't want to hold up the process.
Dina brought in quite a few pictures today.
Which I can leave with y'all.
Great.
If we send them electronically, then we can send them to...
Do you know when Deb will be back?
I don't know when Deb will be back, but I suspect she'll maybe be back by next week.
We'll find a date.
Okay.
With everyone.
What time of day were you thinking? Because I'm better at about 10 or 10:30 than 9 o'clock.
Sure.
Morning or afternoon?
Afternoon's fine too.
And
I'm traveling on Wednesday, so
Right.
Monday or Tuesday would work.
All right, we'll figure it out.
Okay.
Yes. And Nina, I will say one other comment. I appreciate the comment of documenting the current building and particularly the facade towards Lime Street, such that when we begin to look at the new design, we have that as a good point of reference. And it's not that we want to necessarily replicate every flawed piece that's in the windows and things like that, but it's good to have the something to speak to.
Scale
Yeah.
is everything.
So thank you. Yes, exactly. Yeah.
Okay. Good to know.
Crank out.
Windows without mountains.
Okay.
Oh, thank you so much.
Thank you all.
Thanks for coming in.
Thanks, Martha, for all of your back work, because that was very helpful.
Would you like to?
So I will send you the pictures. And how are we going to organize the time? We're just going to have a...
I'll be in touch with you about. Yeah.
If, in order to get it, when you do come in with a formal proposal, we need at least a week's notice before the meeting date, because we have to do legal advertising for the hearing and all of that.
So when you say formal proposal,
You mean C of A, right?
What am I proposing? at this
Well,
point?
when you come in for a C of A, say, here's what we want to do with plans,
So I need to have the plans and the elevations and all of that.
everything.
Well,
That's going to take a while. That's not going to happen in...
Do we-
Exterior, not interior, Nina. In other words, we need the
Yeah,
elevation.
but I still have to design the building, you know?
Yep.
But do they need to have
No,
that prior to,
Yeah, they
I mean,
want
at the same time as they're asking for a demolition permit? Because that's what they need.
Yeah. I mean, the first step is there's actually two steps. You have to get
understand.
the demolition. So whichever you're ready for when you're...
Martha sent it to me, so
I mean-
I need this.
You need that from us, and that needs to go to Mark Whalen.
Right. And for this, we need the plans and elevations and everything.
But we also have to approve the demolition, and it's a separate thing. We need a C of A for the demolition.
Right,
And
but
for
the
the new
demolition
building.
C of A requires that I provide the plan. In other words, you have to know what you're demolishing for. It sounds like to me when I read this. Because Martha kindly sent me this.
Let me give you...
Yeah, attached are, so this is the certificate of appropriateness. This is before I go to the building department. I have to do this. But to do this, I have to have site plan, scale drawing, elevations, photos, samples, and materials. So it's like the whole thing has to be designed.
I don't know the process, though.
Yeah.
Well, let me give you this. These are the relevant statutes for the Historic District Commission. I'll give you this copy.
I have this.
Oh,
But
okay.
see, this, so this is the first thing. Then I read this, and here, nothing can happen until this, certificate of appropriateness. This is the certificate of appropriateness. And in the certificate of appropriateness, it tells me that I need to do all this, unless you waive it.
Well, I think you could bring it in two stages, couldn't you? Couldn't you have two C of A's?
It seems, I mean, we're making a little bit of a leap of faith, right? Because if we approve the C of A to take up to Wayland and get a demolition permit without all of the plans being done, we're saying we trust these people.
We're trusting
That's a
you're
bad
not
precedent. Not that you shouldn't, but it is a bad precedent.
It probably would be better to have.
Yeah.
To have, even if they're not fully complete.
So here's what I'm
How about
thinking.
outside?
My hand drawing, I have to
Scale.
do the measure drawings of existing conditions, and then I will draw to scale. There'll be hand drawings, won't be CAD, but I can do the plans and elevations enough to give you a sense of where we're headed. It won't be working drawings or anything like that, because that would be crazy for them to invest at that point.
What does everyone else think about that? Working off of a scaled hand drawing of what's being proposed.
In other words, it's drafted. It's not a cartoon.
Yeah.
To me, that seems reasonable, but I'm not the person on the process.
Well, as a bit of
Yeah, for
background, almost every variance I've ever gotten, all in Fairfield County and everything, I always did it with hand drawings.
Yeah.
They're very detailed.
Do you need a variance for this?
No.
You don't need a variance.
Any
Right,
other
right.
board.
I didn't think so.
It sufficed for other...
I do think,
boards.
considering as you're helping us do the precedent about process is also important.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think
So
we need the drawing.
We have to do everything right.
I think, in other words, I'm revising my two-stage idea. I think we do need everything, but the question then becomes, what's everything? I mean, how detailed do we need to do? Russ, do you have thoughts?
I think, again, it's not just the commission, but there are a lot of eyes on this. We're talking about taking down an existing historic building and putting up a new building, such that I think that you need a schematic design level set of drawings that we can see what's going to replace what is being proposed to be demolished. And I think that should be one process, one C of A.
Yeah.
Not
I
two.
take back my suggestion to the contrary.
I appreciate it, but.
That's right, I agree. Deb will have thoughts on this too.
Yeah.
So that's going to take 6 weeks or so.
Sure.
All right. Well, anyway, whenever you're ready, don't say to yourself, we want to come in May to the May meeting and we'll get it to you all by May 3rd, for a May 6th meeting.
We need a week.
It's a date. We need
Before
a
the
week
meeting.
for you to say, and you don't have to, for you to submit the C of A with attachments to us, we need at least a week before the meeting.
So our two deadline choices are April, first week of April, or first week of May. I don't think I can have it for April.
Because that would mean last week of March.
So our target will be the early May meeting, because we have to do the measure drawings first. And, yeah.
And you could come in April if you had questions. That gives you some time to.
Super fast, but I do have a job. So.
No, but I don't mean come for the full proposal, but if you needed to come back and have some interim questions, well, there is the April meeting.
Okay, right, if I have, okay, good to know.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and hopefully we'll have the reports by April too, so that we have a good, clear read on kind of the existing structure that can be discussed, and then we do the final approval with the schematic drawings and the reports at the May meeting.
Got it. That makes sense.
And we also will have done the site visit, and to the extent we have questions of our own, it might be helpful to come in April, and so you could respond to any questions we have. The commission member who is absent today, should we say, takes a keen interest in this and
building. She'll be back on Wednesday, meaning the day after tomorrow.
Oh, good. Okay.
So we could attempt to schedule now or consider now a couple of time frames that would work for everybody. While we're at it.
Okay.
Monday, you're thinking of next week, because you'll be back.
Mm-hmm. Monday's fine.
Site visit?
Yeah. Just to move it along. You're saying...
I could do anytime after 11 on Monday.
After 11, okay.
I can't do 10 to 12 on Monday. If we're looking at 13th, I have something 10 to 12 on Monday. I could do the afternoon.
An early afternoon?
Yep, it works for me.
How early is early?
Early afternoon?
Yeah.
When are you available?
I'm available, but I just...
Oh, wondering what everybody else considers early.
12:01.
Oh, 1 o'clock or?
Sure.
Okay, let me just ask Deb, did we say 1?
Yes.
She may not respond immediately. But
Sure, she just did.
Oh.
So tell me she'd be back Wednesday, so.
Is it possible for you to scan this and...
Maybe we could also do the
circulate
Sullivan
the
Murphy one, so we don't have
history
two
of
meetings.
the OLC.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you.
Okay.
All righty.
Okay, great,
Any
thanks.
questions? I'll send them to Martha.
Yeah,
that would be great.
Thank
Would
you all.
later in the afternoon work for everyone in case she...
Yeah. I'll just keep all the afternoon open.
Okay.
See what she can do.
We'll confirm.
Great, thanks.
Okay, thank you, guys. Bye.
The next item is signage policy. I have 3 headings to my comments. The first
Is it
is...
this one?
That's what I circulated last time, which was a summary of some of the zoning requirements concerning signage. But I'd like to take a step back. I think, and I would love your feedback, that it would be useful for the commission to work towards having a set of policies a bit more detailed, perhaps, than what's in the current handbook, perhaps something that could serve as the basis if we do a more expanded handbook in the future, or not, for a range of different areas, so that we don't appear. I know we try to worry about, well, we do worry about precedents, etc., but for applicants, I think it would be useful for them to see something ahead of time about do's and don'ts of signs. I think it would be useful for the commission to be able to say to applicants, here's why we're not receptive to your proposal. We've had this
something
policy.
We could be electronically give to someone who's applied with a COFA for a sign approval.
Right, and would be posted on the website. So signage is one area where we might want to develop a policy. This isn't going to be done overnight. Lighting is another. HVACs are a third. And some of these probably wouldn't be detailed. They're all case specific, but we could say with HVACs, never in front of the house, needs to be screened by
Generators as well.
Yeah, all like HVACs and tanks and all of that stuff.
And John, I think fences too.
Okay, fences.
Yeah,
fences. So this is the first thing. What areas should be working?
You mean on our sort of on our so-called document to send people?
Yeah, those 4 categories I think would be great.
So it would be a more expansive description.
I mean, as in driveway materials, paving.
This is in our handbook.
Right.
So we're talking about kind of adding to it.
I know. Is there anything
or elaborating
that we would want to add to what the handbook says about paving? We've talked about the old lime ice cream shop.
Paving
has a paved front yard, for example.
Paving is...
I don't know. I'm just raising it.
Paving is good. I mean, even just to... I'm not sure that it comes to mind to everyone who might be considering a renovation that they do have to come to us for paving.
Yeah.
For walkways or
driveways, all that.
They may say, oh, they care about structures that are built up. We care about stuff that's fixed to the ground.
No, it's important.
And so I can go through, but even if it's already in the handbook, even if we just excerpt that, I wonder if that might be useful, because not everybody's gonna.
Didn't we send that?
Yeah,
something like that
right here.
We have that, and then we sent also in that letter that we mailed last August. We had a sort of cheat sheet, right?
Yeah.
Of guidelines.
So our newest C of A application pretty much lists all of these things. We added a few things to it, but, like pools and spas, instead of air conditioners, we call them HVAC units because they're more than an air conditioner now. I think this doesn't say anything about generators. I don't think generators were
as prevalent.
Yeah.
I mean, some things have changed since this is before you joined. Most everything's before you joined. A couple years ago, we got a legal opinion about some issues relating to signs that are not reflected in there, for example. I think it also could be useful if we had a short sheet to include a few pictures of good samples, good examples.
I see no harm and a lot of potential upside to doing it.
And again, even if it just tweaks what's in there, it could be useful for the next edition of that.
And we could have like a little addendum printed and include it with the handbooks, because we still have like 400 of these handbooks.
They've just put them out too. Katie just asked me if she said she found a whole box of them in the basement, which we know.
An addendum sheet is a good idea, Marcia.
Yeah.
And, so we could just add to we could use, basically this is fine. But like you said, John, some things have changed and we need to tweak it, but I think we could do a lot with adding to what we already have, and then the next time we publish, we include the whole thing.
How often is that revised? Once every 10 years?
10 years, yeah. We get a grant to do it. Grant pays for most of it.
And when was that one done?
About 5 years ago?
Yeah, and 2019. So.
4 years ago, okay.
We had an addendum in the prior issue of that for a sculpture policy.
Yeah.
So we've done it before. Yeah.
Well, anyway, second point about signage is going through the zoning statutes, which I did for the handout for last meeting. I came across a few questions about how to interpret the zoning regs, which I thought it would be wise to ask Eric Knapp, unless there are any objections. And then the third thing, and I can gear up for a full discussion next month, is to really dig into what our policy should be on a number of issues. Numbers of sign per lot, height, some, again, as I suggested in last month's handout, we have to decide whether we want to adopt the zoning standards. That's option one. Option two is be stricter than the zoning standards. And option three is be silent and leave things for zoning.
I think we have to take on.
I don't see much advantage in that last course, but we need to, for example, think about heights of signs. Some signs in the historic district are taller than what the zoning permit. So,
thank you. Yeah.
One thing we might say is that I don't think anybody is going to go back and insist that Florence Griswold change its existing sign, even though it's 12 feet tall rather than 10 feet tall. But we may want to say any signs proposed after such and such, the date.
Have to be 10, no higher than 10.
New sign.
Good idea. Yeah.
So just be thinking about issue areas before the next meeting. Maybe I'll try to give you a heads up as to areas I think need to be discussed. And if we have issues to add, then we can talk about them.
Good.
Okay.
That's great, John. Thank you.
And finally, Ed's going to be shocked because we maybe will adjourn before noon today. The last issue is new business.
John, I have one other thought in business that I just mentioned to Jeannie apropos of the Sagastano house selling and the new owner of the Ebert house who came in last month. That would it be redundant, or would it be appropriate for us to write have a flat welcome letter from the HDC that we send out to new property owners in the HDC?
We actually,
it's here.
It
was added.
it on.
I did see it. Sorry.
Yeah,
so sorry.
I think that's a great idea.
Mm-hmm.
And
With the book.
yeah, with the book and with the reference to the website. I'm happy to work on a draft of the letter, but who at this point would need to get that letter?
To new owners of Sacrestano and maybe to the Ebert house. They're relatively new.
Henning?
Yeah, Henning.
Henning.
Yeah, he was great.
Henning, yeah. He seems to be very interested in all of the
And the
processes
new owner
related to this.
of the back part of the Grable property, which, at Boston Post Road. Yeah.
Right across.
Brad and Diane, yeah.
Or where?
Before Rose Lane.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, there are two properties. It's the people who bought Graybill and the people who bought, well, I guess two people bought from Graybill, but he divided the lot into two.
Right.
And they both,
Did we approve that bar post and rail fence?
Because what they wanted was to have a, what do you call it?
It looked
Paneled fence.
the one that's perpendicular to the road.
Well, they wanted a paneled fence all the way along.
Right.
All the way coming off the road perpendicular and then at the back. And we decided that having the split rail would and
okay.
better than a
Let's just touch base on
stockade.
these other new ongoing business items. National Votes for Women marker.
Okay. So just when I came in today, Katie, Tim's new assistant, wanted to ask me what the status of that was. That they have scheduled the ice cream social for July 30th at 4 p.m. And like last year, they would like to have, if we're going to, Mark Terwilliger spoke on the Lafayette sign. Remember, none of us could do that. And she thought it would be very nice about the suffragette sign. Therefore, she was suggesting that we install the suffragette sign
Before July.
And I explained to her sort of where we kind of are on that, and that we would like to discuss it with the Coxes, and that I had made a phone call to the Coxes and had not been returned, but that's where it is right now.
Are the Coxes the folks
The
at
owners
two?
of Leadington.
Yeah.
So I think it's a courtesy. We need to let them know before we go and put a sign right up there, fence. So.
So I think maybe a second phone call, just following up.
Or maybe Martha, because
You can always write them a letter or
did you send an email? Do you have their email?
I don't have their email address. I might.
Probably on one of their websites.
I want to see. Because I think that I did get something from. I'll look and see what I have.
But we did hear that Barry had open heart surgery, so they may have had just other things. They're worrying about the wedding venue. They may have had a lot of stuff on their plate, so they just may have just let it slip.
Right. So maybe if you wouldn't mind following up.
I'll follow up.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Okay.
Just so you know, Martha, where Carolyn and I, our most recent site visit, was to place it. You know how the driveway comes in off of through the the town green, just to the left of the driveway, right in front of the fence, but not to the right, to the left, facing the parsonage, of the Catholic Church.
Some shrubbery.
There's shrubbery there, so that it might kind of
blend into the shrubbery.
Feel like it was part of that rather than sticking out on it.
We wanted it to be
The shrubbery would grow over it.
low and blending into the shrubbery.
Which I think would be nicer for them.
Yeah.
I do too.
Especially if it's a wedding venue now.
Right.
Yeah. That would be good for them. So.
Okay. Alternate HDC members, am I correct that two of the people we had talked about as inviting for the one remaining alternate slot are involved with the Learning Center? So it's probably not a good time to approach them when they're bringing an issue to us, but
sure.
Down the road, possibly.
We never asked you, but do you have any suggestions?
Mhm.
There's one more open alternate slot.
I'll think about it.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah. You know, it doesn't have to be anybody in the district, just somebody, I think town residents is.
Do you know,
Because three of the members, well, two members and one alternate live in the district. Or no, yeah, three members and one alternate. So we were sort of thinking of diversifying a little bit, but it's not neat. It doesn't matter.
do you know this, I think her name is Tracy Navarro?
I think so.
She lives in the yellow house across from the barber shop.
Oh, yeah.
Mhm. I know her. I don't know her, but I know her dog.
A little.
Yeah.
But one day she asked, we were talking about, ran into her, and we were talking about the cemetery, and she was looking to find her grandfather or something. So she has some history here, and I don't know anything about her.
Right. Good idea. Good thought. Did we have
Not
anybody?
for this, than for the cemetery.
Yeah. Did we have anybody on our longer list when we talked about it when we wanted to approach?
We had Lynn Fairfieldson was on a longer list, but she doesn't seem to
respond.
be. Mhm.
So somebody on Ferry Road or on Library Lane or on Rosie.
Lieutenant River Lane or
Lieutenant River Lane. That sort of would be good.
Mhm.
People who are concerned about.
Yeah, maybe somebody who was concerned about the new construction on Lieutenant River Lane.
Yeah.
I mean, that
Yeah.
suggests
I mean, that's a Tom Schellens.
Yeah.
There's a fellow on the corner of Academy and Lieutenant River, Tim.
Tim. I know Tim.
Nice guy.
Nice guy. Really nice guy. I don't know how interested he is in historic preservation, but he is a nice guy. Do you know his last name? I can't remember it. I know I've known it.
I can tell you. He's
I wonder if one of the Richardsons would. Tom and Heather Richardson, they're on Academy Lane.
Have you, by the
He's
way,
an
noticed
attorney.
this monstrosity that's gone?
Yeah, we've been watching it.
Lieutenant River Lane. Do you know who built it?
I don't know. Yeah, I mean, in general, I suppose if there are holes in expertise, we should target somebody to fill those holes. We've got, especially with Russ and Deb, people who are very knowledgeable about building and
What
things
about
like that.
Anne Redfield? She's really nice. Anne Redfield is the landscape designer. She lives on Sandpiper, and she's on the Wetlands Commission, I believe, so I know she's interested. I don't know if she would have time. She has helped us in the cemetery to think about the ledges redesign. She's redesigning the landscaping for ledges. She's not on the commission, but she's working with us. Just a name, but she's awfully nice and very, very responsive and responsible. I don't know if she'd be interested.
This is some good.
These are thoughts. Why don't we,
I have one more, John.
Oh, good.
I'll
Go ahead.
mention, and I haven't talked to them. I have no idea if they're interested or not, but I know Marcello Marvelli renovated the house on Still Lane in Rosemary, and they have the shop in town. And they did a really fine job on the house renovation, and I think it's what's the shop deal? Is it Artemis? Artemis.
Yeah, it's not Artemis. It's
in the Cooley. It's behind the Cooley Gallery.
It's in the back of the Cooley Gallery. I mean, in the barn behind the Cooley Gallery. And they have Artemisia.
Artemisia, that's it. Right. Just a name. And I know Marcello is interested in historic houses, renovation, and design. So just an idea.
He is an architectural historian, isn't he? I think he might. He's Italian.
Yeah.
From
So.
Florence.
That sounds,
he's
someone who has very useful background.
Yeah, that's a really good suggestion, Russ.
Yeah.
I like
And,
that.
and you know the house I'm talking about on
Yeah.
Still Lane. Yeah, they did a beautiful job both on the
You mean
landscape.
the yellow house right to start, Russ, right by the green?
No, as you're coming up Sill Lane and right before Mill Pond, there's a beautiful old house with all of the large boxwoods in front of it.
The
Largely
Wade house?
sculpted.
The Wade House?
I don't-
Diana Atwood's house?
Diana Birdsall lived there
Diana Birdsall, yeah.
with
I
the
do know
Umstead Garden. That's
Yeah.
their house. And they've done a lot of work.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have an article here in Old House about that, and that I'll share with everybody that shows their work. Yep.
Well, these are good suggestions. Maybe we can do a little homework and prioritize a list for next meeting. Ed, if you or anyone can find out anything about Judy, do I have the name right? Navarro?
Tracy. But I do know that Tim, I think, was in education and had something to do with, no, it was phys ed. It doesn't apply.
Physical education teacher.
Right. It doesn't apply. I thought it was industrial arts, but it's not.
I have always thought that having someone with landscape knowledge on the board, not necessarily, and I'm not pushing for her, I just happen to like her, but would still be something useful for us to consider.
And both of them are out of the district, too.
Yeah.
And Renfield and Marcello.
Okay, great. List of enforcement concerns.
Okay, I did not review
Well,
that.
for next
Yeah.
meeting, let's try to
I thought we
finalize
had
that.
enough going on.
Yeah, we do.
Yeah.
We always do. And then,
I
we
added a
need to
couple
talk to
things.
Deb about how she's progressing for the Irvine events. There's certainly time after she gets back before the next quarterly issue.
Okay, Deb can make that meeting. She's saying Deb can do 1 o'clock on Monday. And should we confirm that with Nina? Or with all of us?
Yeah, we also wanted to do a site walk.
Maybe we can do both
Yeah,
together.
do them at the same
Oh,
time.
that'd be great.
That would be great, because we have to have a meeting, right? It has to be a meeting
It has,
for a site visit.
technically, it's a meeting, so it has an agenda. So,
So if we could do the two at the same time, that would be wonderful.
Yeah, why don't you just shoot an email to
Sullivan?
Sullivan and say,
He said he would come whenever, I think.
Yes, he did.
yeah, I can
mean-
text him, I
Okay.
texted him.
So should we say like 2 or 1:30, or
Say
I don't know how long it's going to take us here.
say one, just tell them we are going to do another one first, and
Yeah, 1:30 is probably.
1:30,
Yeah.
I think we can take pictures and,
I don't think it'll take very long to assess what's
No.
going on inside that
I don't either.
children's center.
Okay. Good.
I agree.
If it's as bad as she says.
Yeah.
okay.
John, I had one item.
Yes.
I noted that a week or two ago that at 106 Lime Street that a generator has gone in that is on the southern side of the house, and you can see it from Lime Street. And I don't recall. I know when we reviewed the Pamela's. We reviewed the entire design, but I don't recall a generator being part of that, and it looks like it's a new permit.
I think the problem there, Russ, is that generator is outside the historic district.
Oh.
Is 106 right across from you, next to me?
Yeah. At
Pamela.
Pamela's.
Yeah, because we included the house because really just the very front part of the house was within the historic district, but the generator is a separate structure, and I don't think we can say anything about
Even
it.
if it's visible from Lime Street?
It's not.
Where is it, Russ? Is it on the north side?
South, you said.
South.
It's towards Roger Tory Peterson side.
Yeah.
But it's clearly visible. It just needs a screen, some kind of screening is what needs to happen. And they, yeah.
Well, it depends where it is. Is it near the garage area, or is it back?
Yes, it's right. It's right by the garage. Yeah.
Oh, that doesn't. Yeah, we have not approved that, and that would be,
Yeah.
I think, in the historic district. Where is that?
Yeah, it's actually, if you want to, I can send over.
Just 110.
There's a permit.
Renovated.
Gray house that she's been working on forever.
If she's coming in, probably should get approval
I can't
on
just
the record for those copper things she put on. She never came in to talk about that.
Shall we, okay.
She just had endless money.
Let's do our homework. I'll send over I've got the electrical town permit that shows a drawing with the location of it. I can share that with everybody. But please, as you drive by, take a look, and I think you'll see that.
Oh,
yeah.
so she had the town issued a permit for it?
Yes, E9130 is the electrical permit.
Who issues those permits? Is that building? Department?
Or zoning?
About it in that
Zoning.
term of the place.
We can find out.
And why would they be
Building
issuing-
department.
Yeah, I mean, we need to go up and show them the statute that says building department cannot do anything without prior approval of the Historic District Commission. It's right in the statute. And say, why are you approving this without a C of A?
Right, you have to.
I mean,
You have to stop it, so that's good, John. I think you need to do it.
Glad you're back.
Glad you're back.
Yeah.
John, why don't you do that?
No, but you should do it because you understand the statutes best. You're the most appropriate person.
Yeah.
I'm looking at the drawing from the permits. It says the generator is located at the front corner of the garage, and it's 33 by 76 inch and 24 inches off the wall of the building. So it's on the corner towards Lime Street and then towards the Roger Tory Peterson, adjacent to the garage, which probably is in the 300-foot.
Yeah, it just was part of the garage that was within the 300 feet.
No.
Yeah.
Well,
and so this is in 300. Yeah.
If you can, Russ, send me anything you have. I'll go in, and who should I talk to?
So it's.
Well, I don't know whether it's Eric or Mark
Yeah.
Whalen.
Yeah.
Okay, I have.
The building inspector, but they're both upstairs, right?
Does it show who signed the?
Does it have a signature that you can decipher, Russ?
Yeah, it says here it's an active file, and it is Zelic Electric is applying for it, and let's see who signed for it. Active electrical permit. Stephen Lenahan. I see that on here. Does that name ring a bell?
No.
Well, I'd rather talk to the head of.
Oh, that's the contractor. Sorry. Yeah. I don't see where it says who in town has signed for it yet.
Well, I think we should also send a letter to Zelic Electric too. Just say.
Pamela is usually very responsive to our requests.
Yes and no.
No, sure.
What?
Yes and no. I mean, I had to nudge to get clarification.
Okay. Yeah. Well, a letter to Zelic's a good idea, Jeff.
All right, well,
Okay.
Russ, once you send that, I can talk to,
Sure.
talk to Mark, I guess, and if it's not Mark,
Eric.
it's Eric. Okay.
Okay. Thank you.
All right. Any other new or ongoing business? Is there at 10:58 a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
Motioned and seconded to adjourn. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye.